All the time. Yep. No. In the Philippines, I'm the tallest Filipino. That's why I choose to be vegan. Is because I believe that
The core focus for Whatislife.blog, the podcast series, is to connect intricate moments of humanity, which thus exposes the beauty of us. We believe that all humans contain a story, and that alone is worth sharing. Welcome back to Whatislife.blog, the podcast series. I'm your host, Charles Horace, and today's guest is Buddy Joe. Now, me and Buddy go way back to probably as far as we can remember. However, we never really hung out as much, but we lived just a few.
we're essentially neighbors. I live like a rock's throw from you, pretty
Yeah,
much.
the only thing that divides us is a church.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Literally, like I live here. There's a church. And there's your house right behind. Yeah. So
exactly,
literally.
exactly. Okay. Well, buddy, today we are talking about the plant life vegan diet. Go ahead and explain that to us. What is that?
That's right. Yep. So a person. I'm a vegetarian, and I'm slowly transitioning to adopting a full vegan diet. And there's different reasons people choose to be vegetarian, vegan. My primary reason is for ethical reasons. I want to eliminate meat and animal products from my diet for uh, for the sake of the animals. But again, there's a lot of reasons people choose to ethical reasons, environmental, health. Um,
So you said you're vegetarian. Why not vegan?
well, actually, I have been vegan. Starting my senior year of high school, I became vegetarian. And then soon after, I became vegan. And so from then, I've been vegetarian, vegan, on and off. And so at times, I'll fall off the vegan bandwagon for various reasons. But this, conviction remains, you know.
What is that conviction?
So my conviction is that animals, right, are sentient beings. They have the capacity to feel fear and pain, um, and to inflict unnecessary suffering and pain onto animals. I would consider animal abuse. So I'm against animal abuse. Um,
Was this the main core reason why you started back in high school?
Yep. So when I was in high school, um, I had a friend who was handing out pamphlets from PETA, and it just kind of talked about um, the conditions that animals suffer in animal agriculture, and so that's what opened my eyes. It kind of, um, I guess you can say, flicked a switch in my brain. Um, And that's when I realized, I guess, the connection between my diet, my lifestyles, the choices that I made, and the very real suffering of animals was connected. Because I never really considered the fact that the chicken that's on my plate came from an actual chicken that had to grow on a farm and get slaughtered and
Hmm.
processed. So when I read that material, yeah, it's like my eyes were open and that connection was made between what I'm eating, um, and the real experience and lives of animals. Initially becoming vegetarian, vegan, was for the animals.
Interesting, interesting. Now that's got to be a almost, I would say, almost conflicting. Being, well, maybe it depends, but as a Navajo, right? As a Navajo, where one of our main traditions and culture is to raise sheep and then also slaughter sheep, right? And then we all love mutton sandwich, mutton stew, a chee, right? Mutton ribs, all of that. Like that's for me, that's some of my favorite core memories with my grandmother and my grandparents and just family gatherings. Does that affect your viewpoint with vegan and vegetarian diet?
Yeah, yeah, and growing up, like you said, just eating mutton, it's just part of our culture, our Navajo culture growing up. And I will admit, even as someone who doesn't eat meat, I will admit I love meat. Like I love the taste of meat.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love to eat meat. Um, um, One of my greatest downfalls is chicken wings. I love buffalo wings. With the buffalo sauce and
Mm.
um,
Do you prefer bone in or bone out?
I prefer bone in and I
Bone
prefer flats.
in.
Um, but so I'll admit that I love eating meats. I love cheese pizza, and animal products. But again, that conviction remains. Although I love the taste and the pleasure that meat and animal products bring, that conviction remains. Like, okay, I enjoy eating this, I enjoy consuming this, but also the animal suffering remains. So although
Mm.
at times I'll fall out, I'll end my vegan vegetarian diet. Um, that will still be in the very back of my mind. Like, this is a real issue. Animals are suffering. To meet the wants of humans. I don't say needs, which we can get more into. Um, but yeah, so I've been vegetarian for a few months now, and I'm transitioning to again adopting that vegan diet.
Is there anyone in your family that herds or raises sheep?
No, no, no one in my family raises animals. No.
No. Have you ever been present for an animal butchering?
I
Like,
have, yes. I have. When I was young, um, my grandparents took me to a church gathering, and they butchered a cow.
oh, a
Which,
cow.
yeah.
I've never seen that
So
before.
that was actually I feel like that was my first real experience of like witnessing an animal being slaughtered. It was graphic. I'll just say a gun was involved,
Oh my
and
gosh.
um, but yeah, but I have, and I've, I've traveled to different places.
Yeah, yeah.
My most recent trip was to Mongolia, and
That's
there,
exciting.
yeah, we were invited by a family to come and visit, and they butchered a young
Oh, okay,
goat for
okay.
us. Um,
Is it different than the Navajo method?
it is, yeah, it's pretty different. The way that they butcher. Um,
Do you think their perception of animal life is very similar to the perception of Navajo, how Navajos view animals?
I think so. Yeah, they a lot like Navajos, Mongolians. They raise sheep, goats, cows, and they use them for meats, for milk. So that's a primary source of food, and but also for a lot of people, especially in the countryside, they rely on that for income.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them sell their you know cheese and butter products, um, cheese curds.
Most Navajos that I know, are just fine with just, salt. Either
Mhm.
just a little bit of salt or a lot of salt. Are they the same way or do they add like different spices?
In my experience there, no, not even salt. It's just they cooked it over fire and ate it just
Okay.
as is.
Best way in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you tried other diets like pescatarian, flexitarian, Mediterranean?
Yeah, going back to how, it's just a constant inner dialogue, I will say um eliminating meat and animal products from your diet for various reasons. I will say that there is no set way of doing it, whether it's for health reasons, for the sake of the animals, for environmental reasons. Um, there's vegetarians, vegans, like I said, pescatarians. People who just eat fish. People who, um,
Eggs and
yeah.
yeah.
So there's flexitarians. So there's no one way of doing it, and so every person is different. Every person has different reasons for doing what they do, um, and so For me, and again, this is like a constant inner dialogue. It's like, I want, because of my convictions, I want to eliminate meat and animal products from my diet. But also, I travel a lot,
Hmm.
and so I've been to places like I said, Mongolia, the Philippines, Guatemala.
Oh, you've been to the Philippines.
Hmm. I have.
When
Yep.
when was that?
This was in 2015.
2015. That was with
Yeah.
Mike.
Yep, with Mike Hendricks. Yep. We both, everyone knows Mike Hendricks.
Yeah, yeah, okay. No, I went with him back in 2019. No, was it 2019? No, I went to Oaxaca in 2019. Have you been to Mexico?
I have not with Mike, but yeah, I have been to Mexico.
How far deep into Mexico have you gone?
Well, there's this place that I visited called Las Casas.
Las
It's
Casas. Is that below
something.
or
It's like,
above
I feel like
Mexico
it's
City?
southern Mexico. I want to say like way down south.
Oh wow.
It's called. I want to say Las Casas. I could be wrong, but that was when during the time I went to Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it was pretty down south. Um, but yeah, I've been to Mexico, and traveling, visiting all these different places, staying with these families. Because a lot of times when I travel, I'm usually staying with families,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so my inner, like, I'm debating, like, okay, when I'm traveling and I'm visiting these families, staying with them, and they offer me food, they prepare food for me, and
You
it
don't want to be
contains,
rude, right?
right, yeah, if it contains meat or animal products, I don't want, oh no, I'm vegan, and I don't eat. So I don't. So in that case, I would consider myself a flexitarian.
Mm-hmm.
As when I'm on my own, home base in the States. I'm vegan. But when I'm traveling, especially if I'm staying with families in other countries, I'll put that to the side and just eat what I'm offered.
Hmm. I remember in the Philippines, there's one family they made me kind of like a mock Big Mac. She bought all the ingredients that she probably must have found like a recipe online or something like that to make a Big
Huh.
Mac. Because we were like way not way out in the village areas, but we were like in Baguio City, and I'm not sure if they might have had a McDonald's there in in the main city area, but
McDo.
McDo,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but we were kind of like in the residential areas. But she made a Big Mac. She got like three slices of bread buns, and she had the meat, the lettuce, and all the sauce and everything. The funny thing though is we had that for breakfast, and I was like, oh, I was like, you know what? I'm game. I don't mind. I'll
Yeah.
try it.
I feel like it's during those times when you're outside of the United States, you're just really craving, something American. You're like, just a good old
Oh,
burger,
dude,
you
the
know?
first time I went to the Philippines, yeah, that was back in 2013. I was like, we went to a mall, and I was thinking, I just want a little piece of home. That's all I want. So I quickly found a McDonald's, and you know how the malls are. They're like multi-layer malls. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like going to each layer, like trying to find that McDonald's. And I was like, I finally found it. I was like, the Golden Arches, there it is. And I got online, got my McDonald's and my fries. And I was like, this is good, but I don't like their ketchup.
Yeah, yeah, has like a sweet
Yeah.
taste to it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think they use the corn syrup.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Okay. Question. When you're in the Philippines or even in Mexico, do they understand the concept of Native American?
Um, yes and no. So they understand that there are people called Native Americans in the United States. You know, um, their concept, I feel like a lot of times of Native Americans are like out on the plains, living in
Mm-hmm.
teepees with
Mm-hmm.
long hair, war paints and bows
Mm-hmm.
and arrows, riding horses.
Yeah.
So yeah, you run into that a lot when you're traveling abroad. And so you gotta clarify, like, no, like we live just like everyone else. We live in homes, I mean, for the most part, running water. We can't say that for a lot of people on
Mm-hmm.
the Navajo Nation. But we drive cars. We're not living in teepees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was funny when we were in Mongolia in 2015. Me and two other friends, we were in Mongolia, and we went to a, like a, what would you call it? Like a
A gathering.
It's like a huge gathering, like a fest type thing.
Uh,
But it's just tons of people from the community gathered at a stadium.
Bingo night.
Um, something like that. It's just like really big, really big event. But they took us to that, and word got around like there's some Native Americans here.
Oh.
There's some Native Americans from the United States visiting, and so this news crew from the community came out with
Wow.
their cameras and their microphones, the reporter, and they're like looking around, and
Just like,
they found us, and they said, when we heard they're Native Americans, we were looking for people with like spears and bows and arrows and big feathers. That's what they told us. They were like, no, we're regular people.
Dang, you should have found like a bird or something, like a turkey, and just got their feathers out, just
Right.
like put on
Yeah.
a headdress or something, be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm native. I'm a native chief. I'm the
Right.
chief of Winter Rock.
War paint. Right.
uh, yeah. Well, I mean, like, do they ever like mistake you for a different ethnicity?
All the time. Yep. No. In the Philippines, I'm the tallest Filipino. Same in Guatemala. Who's that tall Guatemalan? Mongolia. We had to actually prove that we were from the United States. Like, when we were traveling, we were in a train, and the people we were talking with, they didn't believe we were from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to show them our passports, and we had some of our like Navajo regalia.
Yeah.
We showed them our moccasins and everything. Like, see, they didn't. Are in the Philippines, like people assume I'm some guy trying to act American, or that I'm Filipino, but I like went to school in the United States, but came back, and yeah, everywhere I go, I either blend right in, or yeah, they just assume I'm
That's gotta be kind of cool, though. I mean, you're not perceived as an outsider. You're like
right,
you're an insider.
yeah,
You know,
fit right in.
be like a double agent or something.
Yeah,
A code talker.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I remember. Everyone always thought I was Korean. I don't see it. They're like, "Oh, we were waiting for you to speak Korean." I was like, "Oh no, I don't speak Korean at all."
Yeah, native problems.
Yeah, and then when I was in the Philippines, I'd always explain to them that I'm Native American, and for them, they couldn't register that. They didn't understand that. Um, Usually, when they think of America, it's always Bilagana, right?
Hmm.
And it's just like, no, no, I'm Native American, the indigenous people of the land,
Hmm.
but ultimately they always resort to, oh, when people introduce me, they pause like Mexico. These are the Mexicans. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Close enough.
Close enough, exactly. um, so back to veganism. You recommended a documentary called Veganuary, right?
Well, it's not a documentary. It's you could call it a movement. But it's a challenge for people to take on for the month of January. So it's called Veganuary, and it's a challenge for people to eat plant-based for the whole month of January, and just to kind of experience what that's like, and educate oneself on these issues.
How did you get yourself connected to that? Was it just something you searched online, or was it a friend that recommended it to you?
No, it's just something that came across, when you do things like this, your algorithm kind of follows. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it just came across it, and it's something that people do veganuary.
Does that
And
help you out with your does it kind of like emotionally and mentally help you out, pursuing this path as vegetarian slash vegan?
I would say, because I would it's like a program, you could call. If you look it up, you can get some resources like recipes, vegan recipes, and it just kind of helps. And it also gives you resources, information on um, animal welfare, the environment, health.
I was looking at that website just before the episode. I was
Hmm.
looking at that. I was like, oh, this is good information. This is good. It's a good resource. And at the very bottom, they have a list of like actors who support it. Are
Hmm.
famous people, right?
Hmm.
And I was like just kind of blown away because one of those was Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. Hmm.
I was like,
Yeah.
no way, this guy's a vegan?
He's
No
a
way.
he's one of a prominent
Really? Yeah.
outspoken,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, activist.
Then I saw Billie Eilish, Billie
Hmm.
Eilish, Natalie Portman, and I googled. I kept googling the names like who are the famous people that are vegan, or vegetarian. Paul McCartney, Woody Harrelson. I was like, no way,
Hmm.
Woody,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
guy,
Surprisingly,
what?
yep.
And then who was the other one? Did I already see Weird Al Yankovic?
No.
Yeah, that guy too. And yeah, I was just like, that's so insane. That's
Yeah, there's quite a few celebrities, actors, musicians who are vegan, also who are very outspoken, especially um, about the environment,
mhm.
animal welfare. But yeah, there's a lot more vegans out there than you'd expect.
Yeah. I mean, this morning I had my mom made some blue corn mush and
Mm-hmm.
some. I found a bag of dried apricots. Sprinkled in some dried apricots, and I had that. That was delicious.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that would have supported me. That would have been fine. But then my dad was like, you know what? Let's make some bacon. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have some bacon
Right,
then.
yeah.
So that was
So
good.
close.
Yeah, so close, so close. It's all right. It's all right. But no, usually when I'm on my own, I usually have like five boiled eggs for breakfast, and I can go probably like 24 hours having a almost vegetarian diet. But after that 24 hours, I need meat. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't go on without 24 hours because I get like lightheaded. I get really nauseous and
Mm-hmm.
weak and tired and fatigued. Like I need that protein, that high protein that comes with meat. What is your diet like?
Um, yeah, so again, it's mainly vegetarian. Slowly transitioning to fully plant-based. But like breakfast, things like oatmeal, like I said, blue corn mush
Hmm.
is a good one.
Do you just have a plain oatmeal? Do you add milk to that, or like non-dairy milk products?
Yeah, yeah. I have never been a fan of milk. Even when I
Really?
wasn't vegan, yeah.
You weren't
So
you weren't a chocolate milk guy?
no, no. The yeah, like almond milk.
Hmm.
So my oatmeal looks like almond milk, brown sugar, and cinnamon. Sometimes I'll add some peanut butter for the protein. But also you could add all kinds of things: berries, blueberries, strawberries. I like to add almond slices or walnuts, raisins. Yeah. So my oatmeal usually looks really decorated.
And what about for like snacks, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah, for lunch, a lot of times it's like a really, um, a dense salad,
Did
with the
salad.
really dark leafy greens, nuts. Um,
Do you add like a lot of sauce, or are you just okay eating it plain?
I really like vinaigrettes.
Hmm.
My go-to is raspberry vinaigrette.
Okay.
Pretty tasty. I like that. I like adding that with cranberries and again sliced almonds.
Now I know you're a teacher, so you probably put that all in a Tupperware, right?
A lot of times,
Yeah.
yeah. Fortunately, the school that I work at, they have a salad bar.
Oh,
So if
okay, okay.
I don't have time, I'll just throw together a salad.
Do they have the preferred vinaigrette that you like, or do you bring that
No,
from
they
home?
they have Italian. A lot of times, if I want to bring my own dressing, I will. But if if again I'm just in a rush, I'll throw on Italian, which they have
Yeah.
Italian. But a lot of times a salad or like a wrap, or even like if I go to like Blake's, I'll get a
Yeah.
bean burrito with
Oh, I never thought about that.
shredded potatoes, green chili. You could add veggies to it. So it's just a matter of,
That actually
being
sounds really good.
creative. Yeah, and it's really good too with when it's smothered with chili, red chili.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
best.
Now you're making me hungry.
But when it comes to dinner, rice and beans, stir fried, things that incorporate like noodles, pasta. Um, yeah, so a plant-based diet really is just making that choice 3 times a day to do your best to eliminate meat or animal products.
Hmm.
And so, although it is a lifestyle, it's simply that those three choices every day to
Mm-hmm.
do what you can.
It's crazy. So you mentioned Blake's. How does that? Have you tried? What are your secret menus for different areas? Like let's say McDonald's or Taco Bell or um, even like not churches, but yeah, churches like chicken places like churches and KFC.
Well, for like Domino's, for example, I really like their thin crust pizza with their tomato sauce and all kinds of vegetables, olives, spinach, mushrooms. Um, Sometimes I like to drizzle buffalo sauce on top of that. So that's one of my go-to secret menu items.
Yeah. What about McDonald's? Do you ever get anything from McDonald's?
Not a lot. For breakfast, I'll get their oatmeal and hash browns,
Mm-hmm.
or their French fries.
Did you know that they put milk in the French fries?
I didn't.
Yeah, they put milk in the French fries.
Do they?
Yeah,
No, I didn't know that.
yeah. Um, when I back in 2020, right around that time, I developed this intolerance for milk. Well, it started off with yeah, milk. That was the first one. Then 2021, it became developed an intolerance for gluten. But in 2020, that just like rocked my world because it was just like, oh dang, why can't my body digest milk properly? And it just affected me in such a weird way. And so then I just went into this whole like like study into like what are places that have milk products. And one of the things, it's kind of a gray area because McDonald's doesn't want to disclose it, I guess, but yeah, they add milk or not necessarily milk, but like, well, maybe it is milk, but it is a meat product that they add into the French fries, and that's why it tastes so good.
Hmm.
That's why it's an addiction, man.
Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if you bring that up, and it's also about researching what has or doesn't have animal products. Because
Hmm.
yeah, like you said, it'll surprise you what actually has milk in it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Being vegan, are you the only vegan in your family or vegetarian?
Mm-hmm.
How
I
does that
am.
how does that work?
Well, it was a lot harder, especially when I was in high school. Um, I feel like it placed a burden on them because they had to, me living with my family, they had to like work around my diet, like cook around it, and
Mm,
so it was a little bit of a burden for them. But after a while, they got used to it, and I um, grew out of the home and
hmm.
was able to start, cooking for my own, buying my own food. But me being the only person who doesn't eat meat in my family, it is what it is. I
Hmm.
mean, they know I don't eat meat, and then just kind of, oh, that's what he does.
Yeah.
That's
That's just buddy.
they just learn to accept it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool, cool. Does it affect your friendships and relationships, that you've made over time?
Not in a real big way. Like I said, it's just uh, just one aspect of my identity that they learn about me, learn to accept, and there will be moments of tension. Like we might be hanging out, and we're trying to decide where to eat. They're like, oh, let's go to this place, and then a few moments later, it's like, wait, Buddy's with us. Buddy's here, and so it's just kind
Mm.
of so there's moments like that,
Hmm.
but it's not all the time. It's not a lot.
So you're very vocal about it then. It's not something you try to hide.
No, I try to keep it, I try to keep it to myself only because, I don't want to be that typical vegan who's like every chance they get, hey, look at me, I'm vegan.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I try to keep it to myself until it comes up, where I'm in a situation, you know, um, and I'll have to say, oh, I don't eat meat. Um, but I'm not ashamed of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm proud that especially for ethical reasons.
Yeah,
So I'm very
yeah.
outspoken about that aspect of it, the animal welfare.
What is Life Media is a marketing through podcast platform that utilizes conversation to promote opportunity exposure. Do you think it's more difficult to be vegan or vegetarian on the res?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I spent some time in California in Orange County for a few summers now, and it's just so easy
Mm-hmm.
being vegan there because every corner, you turn, there's, a place that's vegan or offers vegan
Mm-hmm.
options.
Yeah, yeah. It's more diverse.
Yeah, and so it's even like that in like Flagstaff or maybe even Albuquerque, places that are closer. But on the res, there aren't a lot of vegan options.
Mm-hmm.
It's you get bashes, in Winter Rock,
Mm-hmm. They
close
got
to
tofu.
close to where
I
we
saw
live.
that. They got tofu.
Yeah, yeah, they got tofu. They have almond milk. But even then, it's the options there are pretty limited.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
Um,
thinking about, those people who are like in deep res where maybe they only have just a gas
mm-hmm,
station.
right. Yeah.
Just that's the closest thing that they got,
Mm-hmm.
which is good because some gas stations I've seen have like fruits,
Yeah,
some fruits and
right.
some vegetable stuff, but I mean that's probably a higher price as you would go
Yeah.
to a Walmart or somewhere.
Yeah, and that's actually been a reason that I at time would stop being vegan. I would, because it's so hard
Mm-hmm.
have having that diet on the res. But like I said, that just constant in the back of my mind, like for the animals.
Yeah.
So
No, I totally get that. I remember that I've the first time I went hunting. This was probably back in 2016, is what I'm thinking, and that was just the most difficult thing for me because I don't mean to be graphic, but I was like I was with my I think my dad's cousin or something like that, and he had the gun all set up and everything, and we were a ways off a distance, but he had a sniper, like a scope. And I was just looking at it, I was like, "Ah, do I want to do this? Is this something that I want to do?" I was looking in the eye, I was like, "Ah," and I just remember I pulled the trigger, everything went white, and that was it. And I was, yeah. So that, for me, that was such a life changing moment. And I haven't gone hunt. I mean, I haven't, shot anything after that since then, but it was interesting. Like it gave me new viewpoint on life at
hmm
that point, and I'm still, in a way, still processing it.
hmm
On the flip side, though, we got a good bunch of meat, and that was good.
Right.
Filled up the freezer, the ice freezer, so
hmm
that was good. Didn't have to pay for any groceries for a while.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like I mean, because I work with young people, I work with children, and um, I feel like children are inherently, they just they understand the moral value of animal life,
Mm-hmm.
and they know just naturally that we should treat other living things with compassion,
Mm-hmm.
kindness, respect. Um, and so, there's a question like if you um, give, this is just an example, right? You would never give a child a knife, but right, if you gave a child a knife and put a bunny next to it or an apple, what's the child gonna go after and eat? It's gonna go and
Yeah.
eat the apple and cuddle the bunny, right? So
Yeah.
so children inherently just have the sense that we should treat animals with compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that, yeah, humans have naturally that sense that we should treat other living sentient beings with respect, and so even as Native Americans when they hunt, they offer up thanks to
Mm-hmm.
the animal for
Mm-hmm.
offering its life, for food and for clothing.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah.
My my aunts, I don't know, like my uncle, the my yeah my uncle, his probably nephew. He's a very well known guy, but he's also a hunter. You know how when you see hunters that make their kill and then they show the face of the animal on the pictures and so forth. He doesn't believe in that. He doesn't think it's right to go on a hunt and then show the face of the animal on a picture. He sees it as a sacred entity, and like you said, he does give the prayer and the blessing after his kill, and then he honors it in that way. But he doesn't make it as a trophy.
Right.
He makes it as a way of a blessing for provision for his family, and probably for the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm originally from Oregon. My mom
Really?
is,
No
yeah.
way. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know that.
Yeah. So from Bend, Oregon. So I'm a mix of different Native American tribes.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, she's a member of the Confederate Tribes of Warm
No
Springs.
way.
In
What?
Oregon. Yep. Yeah. So that's where I was born. And my dad, he is originally from Northern California, and so his mom, my grandma, is Maidu, uh, which is a tribe in Northern California.
Wow.
And then his dad, my grandpa, is Navajo. So he's half
Mm-hmm.
Maidu, half Navajo. Um, but yeah, my tribe up in Oregon, I was just there 2 summers ago. And yeah, and it was a really great experience, just being able to, experience my culture, because it had been maybe over a decade since I'd been
Mm-hmm.
back home up in Oregon. But yeah, just going to the festival, that, they live in long houses,
Mm-hmm.
or they utilize long houses for ceremonies. But yeah, just going to the festival, eating trout,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it was deer meat or elk, something like that. Um, but yeah, all this food is coming straight from the rivers, coming straight from the
Mm-hmm.
forests, um, but yeah, and you have these tribes like in Arctic Alaska, who
Mm-hmm.
eat,
It's
seal.
it's interesting because I mean, like, I was thinking about this, a while back, that you have tribes that have historically this culture of hunting, animal life, wildlife, but they did it in a way to where they only took what they needed, right? They
Mm-hmm.
never killed more than they needed, just enough to sustain their family, themselves, and the community. But nowadays, fast forward today, you have these large corporations that do mass productions, just more than we need, right? And that's why we have these large supermarkets like Walmart and Costco and Sam's Club, and all these other uh, supermarket franchise, because there's just a large mass production of animal production, and it's hard because here you have a community, a culture who has practiced a way of hunting that they've done in the past, but it was only just enough. But then now you already have these large corporations, and it's kind of like, how do you balance that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance that? Because you want to be, I don't know, I would assume you want to be as close to your culture and the traditions that your foreparents, your grandfathers, your grandmothers have lived, but then it's also like you don't want to consume these animal products, these meat products, because it's mass production and it's unethical
Mm-hmm.
harvesting or unethical farming, right?
You're right. I forget who said it, but there's a quote that said, if slaughterhouses were made out of glass, right? If you could see through slaughterhouses, everyone would be vegan, everyone would
Oh
be
yeah.
vegetarian, just because of the amount of suffering and, uh, bloodshed that happens in slaughterhouses is, just really unimaginable. But yeah, and again, none of this is, black and white. There's
Exactly.
some gray area. That's just how life is. And for me, as a person who doesn't eat meat, you know, um, that gray area might be, cultural
Mm-hmm.
reasons. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
traveling, visiting these indigenous people groups in the Philippines, or and they offer me food, that that's meat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, so that's a gray area. Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack there and discuss. But I would say, again, just for me as a vegan for the animals, it comes to necessity. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of what I mentioned earlier, is that most or all animal suffering happens to meet human wants,
Mm-hmm.
not needs.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't need meat or animal products to survive. Health professionals say that humans can survive, um, and they can actually thrive on a vegan diet
Mm-hmm.
at all stages of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need meat or animal products to survive or to be healthy. So with that, if we don't need meat or animal products to survive, then really the reason that we're continuing to consume it is not out of necessity, but out of pleasure,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
When we take a bite of that burger, right? At most 20 minutes, to eat a burger, you know.
Oh, that's yeah. I mean, if you're, taking your time, I get it done in 5 minutes, man.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes, right? And so it's like, you look at a animal agriculture, a cow, who's raised in, uh, um, a factory, right? Never sees the light of day, is slaughtered, right? But it just has this lifetime of suffering, right? And is slaughtered, and then ends up between two buns, right? So a lifetime, you got a lifetime of suffering, compared to like 10, 15 minutes of pleasure, sensory pleasure.
It's crazy.
And so I think that's for me where, that's why I choose to be vegan is because I believe that animal life has more worth and value than my taste buds.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, the reason that we're continuing to consume meat and animal products is not because we need it, but simply for pleasure. And so again, I believe that animal life is more valuable, worth more than my taste buds.
Do you think there's a sense of negativity when it comes to these kind of communities that promote veganism and vegetarian?
Oh, sure, yeah. Again, you have that stereotypical, angry faced vegan, just screaming at people in the meat section of the grocery store, right? Um, and yeah, I think, yeah, there people have a negative perception of vegans because of, these really crazy vegan
Mm-hmm.
activists. But I believe there are more level-headed,
Mm-hmm.
vegans out there. People like Ed Winters. He's a prominent vegan activist. Just very, he gets his point across in a very logical but also calm manner. There's this other guy, Joey Carbstrong. He's from Australia. He's a vegan activist. But like with everything, you got two ends of the spectrum, right? You got the really crazy
Mm-hmm.
people, on one end of the spectrum, but also you got people who are more rational,
Yeah.
logical,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think people do have a negative perception of vegans as, these really crazy
Mm-hmm.
activists, but we're out there, we're
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. Do you think there or have you discovered any native veganism activists?
No, not in my experience. I can name one other vegan that I know who's Native American, and I wouldn't say they're activists. It's something. It's just part of their lifestyle. But I don't personally know any other vegan or plant-based, activists or. Um, it's pretty weird. Like I said before, it's like such a niche. What's the word?
Mm-hmm.
Niche thing to be vegan, but also Native American in the Southwest. It's not real common. Pretty rare.
For those who aren't vegan or vegetarian, what can we do? Like
hmm
if we still want to have meat in our diet, what can we do to help animals?
Yeah, it can be as simple as taking meat out of your diet one day out of the week.
Mm,
Having a meatless Friday.
mm-hmm,
So just choosing one day out of your week to say no, I'm not going to eat meat or even animal products. So even something as simple as that. just taking steps, no matter how small, to reduce. 'Cause, at the end of the day, it's impossible to 100%ly, if that's a word, 100%ly re eliminate animal suffering. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I leave from here, go back home, I'm driving on the road. There's gonna be insects on the road,
Yeah.
right? So I can't. It's impossible to eliminate animal suffering or harm. But we got to do what we can, even if it's just one day out of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Saying no, I'm not going to eat meat. On Fridays. But also maybe even just gradually eliminating meat altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like me, I'm transitioning to a vegan,
Mm-hmm.
fully plant-based diet. And like I said, we live in a time and place where you can go to Walmart and buy almond milk, or
Mm-hmm.
plant-based butter, tofu. You have all these options. So it's really just a matter of, again, doing what you can, taking these small steps and making these small changes.
Mm-hmm. Are there any aside from the Veganuary website? Are there any other outlets that people can look into to find information, or do you just recommend just doing your own research?
Yeah, I would recommend doing your own research. There's, again, I would look into some prominent vegan activists that I know of, like Ed Winters. He goes by Earthling Ed on YouTube. Joey Carbstrong, from Australia. But also you have different documentaries, which I will admit are pretty graphic. I was just watching some last night. There's one called Dominion,
Mm-hmm.
in 2018, but that just is an overview of the experience of animals in animal agriculture, like cows, chickens, fish. So it's just a broad overview of the experience of animals
Mm-hmm.
that uh, suffer and are ultimately killed for
Mm-hmm.
humans. That and another good one is Forks Over Knives, which talks more about the health side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of good documentaries out there on YouTube. So I'd recommend just, watching some documentaries.
See, I don't know if I could do that. Like, cause then, yeah, like, it'll do the job. Like, it'll do the job, no doubt about it. That's why I'm a little scared to watch
Right.
those.
Yeah,
'Cause
they can get into detail.
yeah, I remember I saw a video on how chicken nuggets were made. I was like, oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's well, that, but also, and this is just one issue out of many. Male chickens aren't profitable in the chicken
Oh yeah.
egg industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when chicks are hatched, right, the females are taken out, so they can be raised to produce eggs. But male chicks, being useless to the egg industry, are just tossed into grinders, right? The
Oh
moment
yeah.
that they're hatched, they're ground up, they're killed. So that's
That's
an issue that really, um, is just, I think, really just sad. Is tragic.
that's the same thing for male cows.
Mm-hmm.
I think the majority of dog food is male cows.
Mm.
Because it's the female cows that produce the milk,
Right.
that produces the good meat, and then also produces more cattle.
Mm-hmm.
The male cows don't do much. All they do is help procreate, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just going back to what is the moral worth and value of animals. We have a very deep respect, and admiration for dogs and cats, as pets,
Mm-hmm.
and we just almost like internally scream in horror and disbelief when we see cultures in China, eating
Mm-hmm.
dogs,
Yeah.
killing, butchering, and eating dogs. And I was like, that's just, unimaginable. Like how, like, and there's activists,
Mm-hmm.
who protest, that, eating dogs in China. But it's like, here we are in the United States eating cows, pigs, and chickens who
Mm-hmm.
have these same lived experience as dogs and cats. They can feel love,
Mm-hmm.
pain, suffering, fear, affection, and so really there is no moral difference between dogs and cats. It's only a societal, cultural perception, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And you know, you look at native tribes, you know, um, there's, you know, some of us that still eat horse or horse meat. That's a traditional thing, you know, for sickness and illnesses. It supposedly helps reduce the illness or the sickness. And then also prairie dogs, you know,
mhm.
pretty much like a rodent, like you know, it's the word prairie, you know, it's a prairie dog, it's a
Right.
rodent. And people are like,
Yeah.
can you eat that? And I'm like, yeah, actually some people do. People some do eat that.
Mhm.
And then I'm thinking about like in Alaska where there are tribes that hunt and kill orcas, right? Which are an
Mhm.
endangered species, or killer whales, right? And they do that because that's a cultural thing that they've done for generations on generations on generations. But it's not their fault that I mean I would argue it's not their fault that they're an endangered species necessarily because you know you have one climate change and two you have you know large corporations that are you know over consuming of fish harvest, right? You know, fishing companies and you know I don't know whatever else, you know, oil rigs and then just all sorts of things. You know
Mhm.
that just kind of like accumulate and then affect influence the endangeredness of an animal. But yeah, that's my perspective on that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, there's um so many issues, and I think again it comes down to, is what the culture, like the present circumstances, right, that you live
Mm-hmm.
in, or even the culture that you grew up in, does that, how would you say, does that determine what is morally right and acceptable? Like,
Mm.
there's things that humans have done in the past
Mm-hmm.
that are wrong,
Mm-hmm.
morally wrong, um, but they did it because it was just accepted as a cultural practice,
Mm.
and so yeah, I'd say um, is something morally excusable only because it's a cultural practice.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too. I like
Mm-hmm.
that. What is your overall goal or dream regarding veganism and vegan? Like, what do you hope to see, both
Mm-hmm.
within, like, let's say, global level, local level, community level?
Yeah, so on a global level, um, I feel like the number one issue at the forefront of everyone's minds is climate change,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
there's different interpretations of that, like the causes of that, but one thing's for sure is that humans are having a negative impact on the environment, when it comes to um, deforestation. Like I said, millions of acres of forest are wiped out, to
Mm-hmm.
grow crops for animals. Um, the ocean floors are being, um, you know, turned into like ocean deserts, just
Yeah.
where life used to thrive. Now it's just barren, because of um, sea, what we do, for seafood.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, on a global scale, we have all these issues that are directly or indirectly that caused by animal agriculture. So on a global scale, I want to, I think to see a world that um, more and more adopts plant-based diet
Mm-hmm.
to reduce, the environmental impact of animal agriculture. And yeah, to just see more and more people, becoming vegan, vegetarian,
Mm-hmm.
and less animals, suffering and being killed, and in turn, less damage being caused to the environment. So that's, a global scale, um, but also just locally, bringing awareness to people about animal suffering, about the environment, about health, because as Navajos, I'm sure you can name a couple people in your family. I can, who have heart disease, who
Mm.
who, who
Both.
suffer
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
heart disease. And again, the number one contributor is high cholesterol, which comes from animal products, and so even just bringing awareness to that, um, and encouraging people to reduce their intake of animal products for,
Mm-hmm.
not only just the animals, but for their health. Um, but even just personally, my goal is to do what I can to live a life that extends compassion, respect to all things, to all people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, and a lot of times when people refer to, my vegan diet,
Mm-hmm.
I like to say, well, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle, because I
Mm.
um am doing this, you know, it's not just something that affects my diet, the things I put in my mouth, and but also, it's the environment, health, animal welfare. It's a lifestyle. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just about what I'm eating, but it's about these different issues and causes that I care about.
I like that. All right. Well, I think we're just about done. Do you have any final words or encouragement for those who are considering stepping into the vegan vegetarian diet or on the fence of that?
hmm Yeah, so I would just say, do because we all have, values. We all value animal life. We want to respect animals and extend compassion to other animals. And so I would just say, take some time to reflect on that and ask yourself, are you aligning your everyday actions with your values?
Mm.
And so I would just encourage them to take steps, no matter how small, to reducing their consumption of meat, animal products, um, and I would encourage them to just think about making it a lifestyle. Because
Mm-hmm.
also it's not just diet, but it's also like, is this product, has it been tested on animals? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and are visiting these like a lot animals can be used for entertainment. Like in zoos and circuses. So it's just an almost, I would just encourage them think about how their everyday choices align with their values.
All right. I like that. All right, buddy. I was glad to have you on the episode,
Yeah,
man.
thanks for having
Yeah.
me. It's been lots of fun. Thanks for
Heck yeah.
yeah, thanks for this. I really enjoyed this.
All right, cool. Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Okay. That's fun, huh?
Yeah, that is.